Rumblings is going around Cleveland right as we speak that Shedeur Sanders' tenure in Cleveland just might be coming to an end. What if they don't trade Shedeur? They just release him and no one else picks him up.
Okay, so before y'all say anything, yes, I called this back in July. I said there was a real chance one Browns quarterback was walking out that building by early August. And now the same reporters who used to laugh that takeoff are the ones bringing you the receipts on it. Shedeur's name is officially in trade conversation in Cleveland right now. And I need to walk you through exactly what's being said, what's actually confirmed, what's still just theory, and what this really means for his future. Stick around, because the last part of this video connects a piece nobody else is putting together yet.
So let's set the table properly. For the last couple weeks, the story coming out of Berea has quietly changed shape. It's not really about how Shedeur is throwing the football anymore, and that's important because that's the part everybody's been arguing about all offseason. Multiple reporters who were actually in the building this week are now talking about what's happening behind the scenes, how the coaching staff is handling his reps, how they're rotating him in and out of drills compared to the other two quarterbacks, even small stuff like how he's breaking the huddle and getting the play out on time. That's a completely different conversation than can this kid play. That's a conversation about how he's being positioned inside that quarterback room. And look, we all know the kid can play. Nobody with actual football eyes has questioned his arm talent or his football IQ all camp long. Even his harshest critics usually end up admitting the physical tools are there. The real question right now is whether the coaching staff is willing to hand him the reps needed to actually show it under pressure. And based on what's being reported out of Cleveland this week, there's a legitimate argument that they're not fully there yet. Some of these reporters are even framing it as a slow squeeze. Less opportunity here, a little less trust there, benefit of the doubt shrinking, even in moments where the tape on film says he's earned more than he's getting. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and here's where I have to be honest with you. If Andrew Berry really is exploring what a trade market looks like for Shedeur, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm devastated about that possibility. Genuinely, if that's the route they end up taking, I think it might be the best thing for his career long term. A fresh system, a coaching staff that actually wants him there from day one instead of inheriting him, that is not the worst outcome in the world for a young quarterback trying to build a career. But there's a second scenario being floated around that's a lot heavier than a trade, and it's the one that actually stopped me in my tracks when I first heard it. That scenario is the idea that they don't trade him at all. They just release him outright, cut him loose, and let the open market decide whether anybody else even wants to pick him up. A trade at least means somebody out there values him enough to give up something in return. A straight release sends a completely different message about where he stands internally. So before we go any further down this road, let's actually get into the reporting that kicked all of this off, because there's a clip circulating fast out of Cleveland media right now, and it lines up almost perfectly with things I've been saying about this quarterback room since deep into the offseason.
Let's get into this clip right here of ESPN Cleveland telling y'all everything I've been trying to say for the last, 6-7 months. Now, when they said it got way to it, 54,000 views in an hour.
I think what's happening here is that Monken does not trust Shedeur Sanders to consistently get the team in and out of the huddle.
Let that sit with you for a second. That's not some random fan account. That's not a hot take page trying to farm engagement. That's a Cleveland outlet on the record saying the staff doesn't fully trust Shedeur yet to run the huddle on a consistent basis. Whether you agree with that assessment or not, that is the actual reporting on the table right now. Here's why that one clip has mattered so much this week. It's not some random narrative somebody invented out of nowhere to farm clicks. It actually connects to a pattern that's been quietly building since OTAs all the way back in May. Go look at who was getting first-team reps when OTAs first opened up. It wasn't Shedeur. It was Deshaun Watson taking first-team work with Dylan Gabriel rotating in right behind him. Shedeur was further down that depth chart in those early sessions, and that's not a rumor. That's public reporting from back in May that people are only now digging back up. Now, fast forward to training camp, and the current reports say Shedeur has been splitting second-team work with Gabriel. So depending on how you want to read that, there are really two honest interpretations here. Either he climbed his way from third string all the way up into a legitimate two-man competition, which is the version a lot of his supporters want to believe, or the coaching staff simply never planned on handing him full control this early, and what we're watching now is actually closer to the original plan than anybody wants to admit out loud. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know for certain which version is the truth. What I will say is that both versions are genuinely on the table right now, and even Cleveland's own reporters are openly debating which one is accurate.
What I do know for a fact is that Todd Monken has a real difficult quarterback decision sitting in front of him, and he's not going to make that call based on outside pressure or Twitter noise. He's got Watson, who's fully guaranteed at $230 million and coming off 2 separate Achilles tears, sitting there as the presumed franchise arm if his body holds up. He's got Gabriel, who took over midseason as a rookie last year and never really let go of that opportunity once he earned it. And he's got Shedeur, who by nearly every account has flashed the most raw talent of anyone in that entire room, but hasn't yet been given the extended, uninterrupted run with the starters that would truly prove it out on tape. That is a genuinely hard call for any coaching staff to make, and honestly, I think that difficulty is part of why this whole situation is getting so messy and public. When a staff hasn't fully made up their mind internally, the reps start looking inconsistent, the messaging to the media starts looking inconsistent, and reporters start noticing the cracks because it stops being a clean, simple story. That is exactly what we are watching unfold in real time this week.
Wow. Apparently, he's splitting second-team reps now with Dylan Gabriel. Again, that's not me doing that.
So let me ask you this directly. Does splitting second-team reps with another young quarterback sound like a guy who's about to get released next week? Or does it actually sound like a guy who's still genuinely in a competition that simply hasn't been decided yet? Now, let's rewind even further back, because I honestly think this is the part that explains almost everything else. Back in May, before training camp had even opened, before a single preseason snap had been played, it was already being reported that Dylan Gabriel was getting first-team reps ahead of Shedeur. That's month 1 of the entire offseason program. If the coaching staff already had Gabriel positioned ahead of him that early in the calendar, it tells you this situation wasn't built overnight during a stressful August. This has quietly been the plan for a lot longer than people realize. And once you accept that timeline, it changes how you look at everything that's happened since. Shedeur wasn't really losing ground this training camp so much as he started the whole process behind Gabriel and has been clawing his way back into the conversation ever since. If that read is accurate, then honestly, whatever he has shown this camp might actually be more impressive than the outside narrative is currently giving him credit for, because he's been fighting a depth chart that was already stacked against him before he ever put on pads for camp. There's also a piece of this that's harder to prove definitively, but is worth mentioning honestly, because plenty of fans and reporters noticed it independently. Coach Prime, Shedeur's father, made a trip out to Cleveland recently to watch practice in person, which on its own is completely normal. Plenty of parents show up to watch their kids work. But within roughly a week of that visit, the reports about Shedeur's reps getting scaled back started picking up steam. I want to be careful here and say I am not claiming those two things are directly connected, because I genuinely don't have confirmation of that. But the timing lines up close enough that it got noticed by a lot of people watching closely, and I'd rather flag that honestly than pretend nobody brought it up. What I keep coming back to though is this. None of the actual reporting this week is saying Shedeur played poorly in these sessions. Nobody credible is out here saying he's missing easy throws or blowing basic assignments. The criticism, once you actually listen closely to how it's being framed, is about trust and consistency running the offense, not about his physical talent level. That is a very different problem than he's simply not good enough, and it's typically a problem that gets solved with more reps and more time, not with a release.
You got to go all the way down to May. Because in May, it was reported that Dylan Gabriel got first-team reps before Shedeur. This been the plan all along, y'all. Shedeur was overachieving way back when.
I'm just going to say it plainly. I don't think this is a talent evaluation at all. I think this is a trust and reps evaluation, and those are two completely different conversations that get lumped together way too often. So where does all of this actually leave us? Andrew Berry trades a quarterback almost every single year during training camp. That's simply how he operates as a general manager. So a Shedeur trade wouldn't be some shocking, unprecedented move on its own. But a straight-up release with nobody lined up to claim him would be the version that genuinely stuns the entire league. Because you don't typically cut a guy who set the all-time rookie group licensing record and is still sitting as one of the top-selling jerseys across the whole NFL. There is real, tangible value there, even if the coaching staff isn't fully sold internally just yet. The more grounded read here, and the one that actually lines up with what's being reported around the building this week, is that Cleveland is still running a genuine competition through the bulk of camp. It just hasn't looked clean or comfortable from the outside looking in. Watson's health remains a real variable nobody can guarantee. Gabriel already has legitimate starting experience under his belt from last season, and Shedeur is fighting to close a gap that started all the way back in May, not one that suddenly opened up last week out of nowhere. I also want to be fair here, because it's easy to only highlight the doom and gloom version of the story.
The same reporters flagging the trust concerns this week are also the ones who've praised his reads, his poise in the biggest moments, and his ability to make the guys around him better whenever he actually does get extended run with the starters. This isn't some one-sided story where everybody in that building has completely given up on him. It's a coaching staff genuinely wrestling with a difficult decision, and that internal wrestling is exactly what's leaking out into the public reporting right now. So my honest, non-clickbait take, for whatever it's worth, is that this is nowhere near over. What we're actually watching is a coaching staff trying to figure out who they trust the most with the keys before games start counting toward the standings, and Shedeur is still very much part of that ongoing conversation, even if the road to get there hasn't been smooth or comfortable.
That Coach Prime go to Cleveland a week ago, now all of a sudden, Shedeur ain't getting no more first-team reps. And that's all I'm going to say with the Coach Prime thing. I just find it real spooky that Shedeur was getting all first-team reps doing OTAs, and all of a sudden, Coach Prime go see his son practice.
Think about that for a second. A guy who broke the all-time NFL merchandise record as a rookie, who is basically the face of a brand new stadium opening in 2029, could still genuinely be fighting for reps in the middle of August. That's the part of this whole story that's actually wild when you step back and look at it. Let's recap exactly where we stand right now. Cleveland reporters are openly discussing a real shift in how Shedeur is being used in practice this week. That reporting lines up closely with a pattern going all the way back to May, when Dylan Gabriel was already ahead of him in first-team reps before camp even opened. Coach Prime's visit and the timing of the reduced reps afterward got noticed by fans and reporters, but there is no confirmed connection there. Just a coincidence people are watching closely and talking about. And Andrew Berry trading a quarterback during camp wouldn't be new territory for him at all, but an outright release would genuinely be the real surprise, given everything Shedeur has brought both commercially and on the field for this organization. Nothing here is a confirmed done deal. This is still very much a live competition being worked out in real time, and the reporting is only just now starting to catch up to what's actually happening inside those meeting rooms. So here's what I actually want to know from you. Do you think Cleveland ends up trading Shedeur before the regular season starts, or do you think this stays a genuine real competition all the way through the final preseason games? Drop your honest answer down in the comment section, because I read every single one of them. If this actually broke the situation down clearly for you, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the very next one.